My name is Evelyn Grace Harper, and I turned 75 on a windy morning in late October when the maple leaves outside my bedroom window in Cedar Rapids finally surrendered to the season and let go. I have lived in the same white clapboard house on Linden Street for 42 years. The porch sags a little more than it used to, the screen door complains when it opens, and the third stair from the bottom creaks in a way that would give away any midnight secret. But it is mine. Every crack in the plaster, every sun-faded curtain, every stubborn cabinet hinge carries the fingerprint of my life. I did not always live alone. There was once a tall man named Walter who filled this house with the smell of sawdust and aftershave. There were 2 children, Michael and Anna, who ran through these halls like summer storms, loud and electric. There was a golden retriever named Daisy who believed the mailman was a sworn enemy. Now, there is only me. And yet, this is not a story about loneliness. It is a story about beginning again. On the morning after my birthday, I woke before sunrise. Habit, mostly. When you spend 33 years working as a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital, your body learns to rise before the world does. I shuffled into the kitchen, wrapped my hands around a chipped blue mug, and watched the sky turn from charcoal to pink. Birthdays at 75 are quiet things. Michael had called from Phoenix, Anna had sent flowers from Boston, my neighbor, Ruth, brought over lemon bars and stayed for tea. But after the dishes were washed and the phone stopped ringing, the house grew still in a way that pressed against my ribs. That was when I opened the bottom drawer of my writing desk. Inside, beneath old utility bills and faded Christmas cards, was an envelope addressed in Walter's careful handwriting. Evie, it said. He had written it 6 months before he died. I had not been brave enough to read it. Until that morning. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the paper. My dearest Evie, if you are reading this, then I have already left you with more silence than you deserve. I am sorry for that, but I need you to promise me something. Do not shrink. Do not fold yourself into a smaller life just because I am not there to fill the space. You have always been braver than you believe. When the time comes, choose something that scares you. With all my love, Walter. I read it twice, then 3 times. Choose something that scares you. At 75, most people choose comfort, routine, predictability. I had done the same. My days were measured in grocery lists and crossword puzzles, doctor's appointments and reruns of old television shows. But that letter felt like a hand at my back. And for the first time in years, I asked myself a dangerous question. What would it mean to choose something that scares me? The answer came from a cork bulletin board at the Cedar Rapids Public Library. I had gone there to return a novel and escape the quiet of my living room. As I pinned my scarf and adjusted my glasses, my eyes wandered over the flyers. Community garden volunteers needed. Beginner's yoga for seniors, local theater auditions, all ages welcome. I almost walked past that last one. Theater was for young people, for flexible knees and quick memories, for bright lights and bold voices, not for a 75-year-old widow who had not set foot on a stage since a high school Christmas pageant. And yet, choose something that scares you. I took down the tab with the contact number before I could change my mind. The Cedar Rapids Community Theater sat between a bakery and a hardware store, its brick exterior modest but warm. The door chimed when I stepped inside. The lobby smelled like dust and possibility. A young woman with purple hair looked up from behind a folding table. "Auditions?" she asked. I nodded. "Name?" "Evelyn Harper." She handed me a clipboard. My hands felt clumsy as I wrote my name beneath a list of others, most of them decades younger. The play was a small-town drama set in the 1960s. I was auditioning for the role of a grandmother named Rose. How fitting, I thought. When they called my name, I stepped onto the stage. The lights blinded me for a moment. My heart pounded so loudly I feared it might echo. "Whenever you're ready," the director said gently. I cleared my throat, and then I began. At first, my voice wavered. The lines felt stiff in my mouth, but somewhere between the second and third paragraph, something loosened. I was not Evelyn anymore. I was Rose, a woman who had lost and loved and survived, a woman who had opinions and regrets and humor, a woman who refused to be invisible. When I finished, the theater was quiet. The director smiled. "Thank you, Mrs. Harper." I walked home in a daze. 3 days later, the phone rang. "You got the part." Rehearsals began in early November, 3 evenings a week. The first night, I nearly turned around in the parking lot. My knees ached. The air was sharp with winter. I told myself I could quit. No one would blame me. But Walter's letter lived in my coat pocket, so I went inside. The cast was a patchwork of ages and personalities. There was Daniel, a high school senior with a nervous laugh; Marissa, a single mother who worked 2 jobs; Tom, a retired accountant, rediscovering his love for storytelling. They welcomed me without hesitation. During breaks, we sat on the edge of the stage and shared stories. They asked about nursing in the 1970s. I asked about smartphones and streaming services. I began to feel something I had not felt in years. Needed. Opening night arrived like a thunderclap. The house was full. I spotted Ruth in the 3rd row. Michael had flown in from Phoenix. Anna sent a bouquet that waited backstage in a vase. My costume, a floral dress and cardigan, felt like a second skin. As the curtain rose, I stepped into the light. The lines came easily, the laughter landed, the quiet moments held. In the final scene, Rose delivered a monologue about growing older. "They think age makes you smaller," I said, my voice steady. "But it doesn't. It makes you wider. You carry more. More love, more grief, more memory, and if you're lucky, more courage." When the curtain fell, the applause was not thunderous. It was warm, sincere, and when I bowed, I felt taller than I had in decades. 2 weeks after the play ended, Anna called. "Mom," she said carefully, "have you ever thought about moving closer to one of us?" The question hovered between us. I knew what she meant. They worried about icy sidewalks and doctor visits, about me being alone in that white house. "I've thought about it," I admitted, and I had. But as I looked around my living room, the worn armchair, the family photos, the faint scuff marks on the hardwood floor, I felt something solid inside me. "I'm not done here yet," I said. There was a pause. Then Anna sighed softly. "Okay, Mom." And I realized something important. Choosing something that scares you does not always mean leaving. Sometimes it means staying. Winter settled over Cedar Rapids like a heavy quilt. Snow gathered on the porch railing. The maple tree stood bare and patient. The theater group began planning another production. This time, they asked if I would consider helping with directing. Me, directing. The idea terrified me more than acting ever had, which meant, of course, that I said yes. I learned how to guide instead of perform, how to listen, how to shape a scene without standing in it. I made mistakes. I forgot cues. I misjudged pacing. But the cast trusted me, and slowly I began to trust myself. When spring returned, it arrived with a softness that felt like forgiveness. The maple tree outside my window bloomed again. The porch looked less weary. Even the 3rd stair seemed to creak with less complaint. On a mild April afternoon, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter. "Dear Walter, you were right. I was braver than I believed. I chose something that scared me, and it did not shrink me. It stretched me. I am still here, still growing, still surprising myself. With love, Evie." I folded the letter and placed it beside his in the drawer. On my 76th birthday, the cast of the theater gathered in my living room. Daniel brought a cake. Marissa brought paper plates. Tom brought a bottle of sparkling cider. We squeezed around the dining table, laughing too loudly, crumbs scattering like confetti. At one point, I looked around the room. Different ages, different histories, different futures. And yet, here we were, family, in a way that did not require blood. As they sang Happy Birthday, I closed my eyes and made a wish. Not for more years, but for more courage. Because here is what I have learned at 76. Life does not end when the house grows quiet. It waits. It waits for you to open the drawer, to read the letter, to choose the thing that scares you. And then, if you are brave enough, to step into the light.